Welcome back everyone to another very exciting video. We're going to get right into the heat of things. In my previous video, it was all about the tournament recap and the behind the scenes in the Lanzarote International Chess Festival 2025. Now in this video, we'll go to the game analysis. Now I finished 6th place, but to get there, I had to play 9 brutal games. We're going to see 3 very crucial games that led up to me coming 6th place in the tournament. We're going to see one exciting 13-move checkmate against a FIDE master. We're going to see one heart-wrenching loss against a Grandmaster. And then we're going to see one final round draw. But that was very nail-biting and almost clinched me the 2nd place if I would have won that game. So stay tuned for some very exciting chess. Now in the first game that I will show you, I was up against a FIDE master from Spain. And not just any FIDE master. This was Menvielle Augusto, an 86-year-old FIDE master. How many people would still be playing chess at that age? I know for sure if I survive to be then, I will not be playing any chess. So in this game, I had the white pieces. I opened with pawn to e4. He proceeded with pawn to e5. So knight to f3 attacking his pawn, and he chose pawn to d6 to fill out defense. Now I was expecting this opening from him. I saw he had played it before, so he did not catch me too much by surprise. I played pawn to d4, and I had seen in some of his previous games, he would always play pawn captures d4, so I spent some time before the game reviewing my lines and preparing for this move. He played knight to d7, which is a move he had not usually played, so I was a bit surprised. Now usually in chess, they always basic principles. When you don't know what to do in the opening, you can always develop a piece, get your king to safety, take control of the center. All these rules you should always have in mind. So I played bishop c4, developing my bishop. He took on d4. Now, I could take with my knight, but I thought, why not take with the queen and bring my queen out in the game for free? He played knight f6, knight c3, normal developing move. Maybe I will move my bishop, then castle queenside. Bishop to e7 was played, and here I went into deep thought for about 15 minutes because I saw a very fascinating move, an idea that simply caught my eye, and I just could not let go of it. I knew that perhaps it was objectively not the best move, but the idea simply got me, and I thought I had to play it, and it worked out very well. And that was the move. Bishop captures f7, simply giving up my bishop. His king could take, but now knight to g5 check, and black is in a very sticky situation. Now there was one defense that black had, but I thought my opponent, he's 86 years old, he looked very tired, so he probably would not see it, and in truth, he did not see the best defense. Could you find the best defense? You always pause the video and think, what would you do if you were black? First of all, I saw if he plays king f8, I have knight e6, which is a fork, and his king and queen. If he plays king g6, I saw I had the simple move pawn to f4, which is actually simply with a big threat pawn to f5, and his king does not have too many squares, and black would get caught. In the game, he played king to g8. However, after king e8, it seemed that his queen is trapped after knight e6. However, black here had the strong move, which he missed, pawn to c5, counter-attacking my queen. Here, I'll be forced to move my queen back, and then after he moves his queen to b6 or a5, I would have taken on g7 with check, and after king f7, move my knight back to f5. And in this position, I'm down a piece for some pawns. However, his king is out, and I clearly have some compensation. However, by no means, black is doing too bad. So I took a little risk. I told my opponent he would not see it, and in truth he did not. My opponent, he played king g8 almost immediately, but to me I was in shock to see I played queen to c4. His king is in a sticky situation. If he plays king f8, queen f7 is mate. Pawn to d5 he blocked, simply knight takes d5. With the threat of a discovery against his king, he played knight e5 attacking my queen. However, knight captures f6, it's a double check from my queen and the knight. Here black played king f8, and then mate simply followed. Knight g captures h7. Again, the king has nowhere to go. The queen covers these squares, the knight covers these squares. He has to take with the rook, and then queen g8 was a nice, beautiful checkmate. A 13-move checkmate against a FIDE master. That was one of my shortest games. Now let's go to the next game. Now in this game, I was up against a strong Grandmaster from Italy, Grandmaster Lorenzo, and here I was caught a little bit by surprise It was very clear that my opponent, he came with some new idea in the opening, a very rare idea, and he spent some hours analyzing this idea and he played it on me. And I saw this idea for the first time and had a hard time decoding what to do. So after pawn d4, I opted for my favorite Caro-Can defense. He played pawn to d4, I played d5, and he chose the advanced variation, pawn d5, which I replied immediately with pawn to c5, putting pressure on the center. Grandmaster played pawn to c3, and here I brought my knight out to c6. And here he played a very strange idea, bishop to b5, which usually is not a good idea, as the bishop is known to be one of White's strong bishop in the Caro-Can and the French defense. We all know the light squared bishop is one of White's main pieces. So this idea to me was a bit strange. I had seen this idea before. It was not completely new, but I simply saw it a very long time ago and I didn't remember anything here. Already on the fifth move, I was surprised. I was on my own. I was thinking, and I did not find the best response. In hindsight, the best response would have been queen to a5, which is a very exquisite move. The main idea is it attacks the bishop and it also puts a pin on the pawn on c3. So I actually want to take on d4 and he won't be able to take back with the pawn. Here I played queen to b6 and Grandmaster played bishop to a4. Now my queen is a bit funnily placed on b6 and his bishop on a4 maintains the pin on my knight. I took on d4 and I developed my bishop, tried to complete my development. Knight c3 attacking d5, pawn d6. He played the simple move pawn to a3, not allowing my bishop or any pieces to be developed to b4. So here I sat down and started to think. It was not an easy question of how to develop my pieces. I have my g8 knight, my f8 bishop, and they're all fighting for the same squares. I don't want to play knight h6. He can eat my knight and damage my pawn structure. If I play knight e7, the bishop is blocked. I decided to play knight e7 with some ideas. Maybe this knight could come to g6. Or maybe I could have ideas like h6 to make space for my bishop, bring my bishop back, then the knight to f5, bishop to e7, and castle. He played knight g2. And here, I got an inspiration over the board and thought, let me go all out and just try to beat this guy. So I castled queenside here, which was a very innovative decision here. And White immediately went on the attack with pawn to b4. But I was not taking that. He's attacking me. I play f6, striking right back in the center. The game got very heated here. Played pawn takes f6, I recaptured, and he played bishop e3. I didn't like my king on c8, being on the open c file. So here I played king to b8. White played rook c1, and I played knight g6, opening up my bishop. And here White played knight g3. Here my position didn't look so good. Already from the opening, after he played this special preparation, I didn't feel I got a good position, and here things started to get a little bit worse. But here I used this opportunity to dig very deep and find a very innovative idea. Knight ce5. With the whole idea that if he takes my knight, I have pawn to d4, unleashing a deadly double attack and opening my rook. He took my bishop, I recaptured, and instead of taking my knight, he played queen c2, leaving my knight on the attack and attacking the pawn on f5 with his queen. Things got heated. Pawn f4, d captures e5. I took his bishop, and here he played knight d5 with the whole idea that I cannot take it due to queen c8 mate. Here, I found the very nice resource. Bishop captures b4. So now if he plays a captures b4, rook takes d5, and there's no queen c8 due to my rook covenant. He played knight b4, and I played knight captures e5. In hindsight, I could have tried the move rook to d2 to seek a more complex game and try to confuse matters. But here he had either queen c3 or perhaps queen c5, trying to trade the queens. If I take on f2, he has king captures d2. But after pondering, I simply took back the pawn. Knight captures e5. And here my opponent played brilliantly. He saw everything. He calculated it very well. He castles. I played pawn to a5. And it seemed that things were going very well. His knight has nowhere to go. If he plays knight a2, simply rook d2. And now his knight is in some problems. f2 as well. He played knight c6 check. Oh Lord. I didn't see that, honestly. After I took the knight, rook to b1. Now this turned into a big problem here. Seemed that I'm losing a piece. I tried knight d4, rook takes b6, and knight c2, but simply recaptured. And after rook d2, bishop to f5. Here I tried to make something with my pass pawn. I played e2, rook e1, and rook d1, but here simply rook b1, holding everything together. And after rook hd8, simply pawn f3. Rook d2 and king f2. I took on b1, and after he took with the bishop here, I resigned as I'm down a piece. My pawn on e2 is fallen, and simply there was no hope. That was a tough loss. Now Now let's go to perhaps the most interesting game of the tournament. So in this game, I was against an international master from Peru, Levia, Gianmarco. I was ready to win the game. If I'd win the game, I would come in clear second place, get 3,000 euros and a lot of ratings. And I had the opportunity to do so. Position was very good. At some point, I opened with pawn to e4. He played the Sicilian defense. And here I played knight c3, which is a system that I'm working on for my next chessable course. And after pawn to d6, I chose bishop b5 check. He played bishop d7. I took back with the queen, leaving the c6 square for his knight. I here played pawn to d4. After cd4, queen d4, play knight c6. I humbly drop my queen back to d3, pawn to g6, and here I play knight f3. So far, nothing unusual. Getting my pieces out, developing, playing some nice calm chess. He played bishop g7, castled, knight f6, and here I played one of my favorite ideas, knight to d5. The whole idea is to provoke black to take the knight on d5. Why? Because if he takes, I take back with the pawn, and now he has this kind of weak backward pawn, and I have more space as well. And this gives me a more comfortable game, and I will be able to put some pressure on black, as I can always pressure the e7 pawn. He played rook c8, and here I played bishop g5. So I'm kind of provoking black to take on d5, as now I want to double his pawns when bishop captures f6. He played knight g4, and I simply kicked his knight. And here he played a very interesting move, h6, counter-attacking my bishop. So if I take his knight, he will take my bishop, and my g4 pawn remains hanging. So I simply retreated bishop to f4, and he continued pawn to g5, and I played bishop g3, knight f6, and here I played the move pawn to c3, covering any b4 square and simply closing his bishop. He played queen e6, I developed rook e1, castles, rook a d1. So here I am in a much better position. All my pieces are out, black's pieces are funnily placed, and I have my dominant knight on d5. Here black played a very passive move, rook f8, as he had nothing better to do. And here I struck with pawn to h4, realizing that all my pieces are out, so now it was time to strike. Here I had a huge time advantage, position was better, it looked like things would only go good from here. So my whole idea is if he moves this pawn to g4, then I would get some squares for my knight. He played a very interesting idea, knight h5, sacrificing a pawn, trying to double my pawns on the g5. I took the challenge, h captures g5, knight captures g3, and a very important in-between move I played, g captures h6, attacking his bishop as his knight has nowhere to go. Took with the queen, I played f captures g3, knight e5 was played, I took, brought my rook to the f file, after e6, the knight was transferred to f4, blocking his bishop. Queen g5 was played, and here I now played queen f3, looking to transfer pieces to the king side. And after rook e7, this was perhaps the most critical position of the game. I saw the best move here. I knew it was the best move. I did not play it. Why would I play it? I don't know. I did not play it. Perhaps it looks like a bit of a risky move, and it's not a very natural move, but I saw the move and I knew it was the best move. Immediately after I played my move, I knew I should not have done that. The best move, king f2. Then the rook simply comes on the h file, coming into the game, and black is basically losing here. The game is over. He has nothing to do. Rook h1, rook comes to h5, the other rook to the h file, and black's king is completely open. In the game, I played a very bad move, rook d3. Miscoordinating my pieces. They are not working together now. Defending some stupid pawn. He played pawn b5. There was knight g3, but simply after queen g6, I tried to remaneuver my knight to g4, but this gave black enough time to play rook c4, putting pressure on the center, and after kicking his rook back, knight g4, simply rook bc7, black could give up his bishop, and he has very active pieces. My rook on d3 is not really in the game, and black is surviving. I took on e5, took on d6, and then black took on e4. And here I realized things were not looking so good again. Things were not looking so good again. I realized that in this position here, I cannot do anything better than a draw. Black is too active. My c-pawn is under attack. My king is a bit weak. And yes, I'm off a pawn, but his rooks are too active and his king is safe. And after rook d8 check, king h7, I played queen f6, threatening mate in one. But here he had the forced draw with queen e3 check. Because after rook f2, he could simply play the move queen e1 check. And I cannot play king h2 due to rook h5 and mate is coming. I would have to repeat with rook f1 and then he would continue with queen t3. That is how the game finished in a draw. If I would have found the move king f2, I would have won the game and come second. But instead, didn't find the move and came 6th place. So a tough draw. Nevertheless, that is how the game is. Hope you enjoyed all these games. Stay tuned, subscribe, and be on the lookout for more. Thank you guys for staying with me till the end. I haven't forgotten about y'all. I've been a bit busy playing in tournaments, but new videos are coming soon. A lot is in the works. New chessable courses are coming out soon. I'm working on my website. I'm working on many new developments. We're gonna have very interesting videos coming out. Don't forget about my chessable page. Thank you all for all the kind comments you've been leaving there. And don't worry, I read all of them. I take time to reply to them all. And I look forward to producing more content for you guys. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your unwavering support. Stay tuned, subscribe, and always look out for more content.